Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going through my June wrap-up and look ahead at my July TBR. If you see all this stuff behind me, I'm getting ready to start a new school year in 20 days. I have to be back in my classroom getting things ready, and then the students come to school in 28 days. So ignore all of that stuff. And also ignore this little pad that you're sitting on. I have propped you up so that I can see you can see me, and you're just elevated a little bit higher. I guess it didn't really matter. I could have put that in a description. Anyways, I want to go through the books that I read in June. I have 7 of them. I have a list over here that you can't see that I'm looking at, and then I also have 2 stacks next to me that we're going to talk about. Yeah, that's what I have. Starting with the books that I finished in June, the first day that I finished a book was June 8th, and it was actually one of the books that I pulled out of my jar so I could read off my shelf, and that book is In the Company of Witches by Orly Wallace. In this book, the main character, Bryn, is a witch that had a personal tragedy and decided to stop practicing witchcraft. Then there was a murder that happened in her small town, and people suspected her aunt. In the end, Bryn and her family solved the murder. Fabulous little book. Though, as much as I loved it, I don't think I'll be keeping it on my shelf just because I know what happens. It's very cute, but I don't need it to be taking up the space, and I can gift it to somebody who's going to love it as much as I did. That being said, I did go ahead and read the second book, which also enjoyed. I think I might like the second one a little bit more than the first, and the second one did leave me hoping that Orly Wallace writes a third book in this series, but then again, who else are they going to kill off in the town? Because again, murder mystery. The mystery in this book, I think, was really well done and actually a surprise. Again, Bryn solves it. There's magic, there's witches, lots of fall vibes. The only thing that I wish I would have done differently with both of these books is I wish I would have read them in the fall. But that's not a miss, considering that it's 1,000,000 degrees outside here, and sometimes you need a little summer ween, and it was super enjoyable. Love them, but they are going to leave my shelves and go to somebody who will love them as much as I do. The next book that I read was The Caretaker by Marcus Kluwer, and I wanted to read this book because I had read his first book, We Used to Live Here. I read this last year. I did get this book from the library, and I got it from the library because I don't typically own thrillers, or I don't keep them on my shelves, because once I read them, I'm not really going to go back and read them again. I know what the twist is, so I did not purchase this book, so I don't have a copy, so it's right here. I enjoyed this book. I read it in, I think, 24 hours. It was kind of dark. I think it was darker than We Used to Live Here. There are a lot more paranormal elements, a little more, I don't want to call it eldritch, but that's the kind of vibes that I get from this book. It was interesting because the synopsis is the main character is hired to take care of this house and is given certain tasks that they have to do by the home's owner. And as you go through the book, you start to question whether or not the tasks are coming from the right place, or whether or not even following the directions is the appropriate choice. It is an interesting way to question what you would do in that situation, because you will find yourself answering, well, I would have done X if you were the caretaker. It also, when I got to the end, made me wonder about something that was said at the beginning, and there's a conversation between the main character and somebody who is leaving the house that happens. And I'm wondering if it was a hint that the main character just completely left or missed or something. But I'm curious, and I am interested to see what else Marcus Kluwer writes in the future. I did like this book. It's one of those books where if it was a movie, you would say when you walked out, that was enjoyable, glad I went. And then you might not ever watch it again. But it was good. It was an enjoyable read. I say that so much. I liked it. It was good. The next book that I read in the month of June was With Love from Harlem by Rashonda Tate. This book follows jazz singer Hazel Scott from the 1940s into the 1950s. It spans her career from early days to when she buys her first house, and then it goes through her life once she gets married and what that looks like for her. It was interesting to me to read this after having read The Briar Club, because The Briar Club follows women in Washington, D.C. around the same time period, and this follows a woman in Harlem from the same time period, but she marries a man, and then it also takes place in Washington, D.C. So seeing and comparing the time periods of the women based on how the stories were told was a really enjoyable way to read both of these books, and I finished The Briar Club a month ago. I enjoyed learning about Hazel Scott as a performer, even in this fictionalized version of her history, because yes, she was a person, however, it's somebody that you don't necessarily hear about as often as, say, Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday is a character in this book. She does show up in certain chapters. You hear about the relationship between Billie Holiday and Hazel Scott, and then also later on in the book, Quincy Jones shows up, which I think is a fascinating way to show the tight connections and ties between the lives of performers in Harlem in the 1940s and 1950s. I learned so much from this book, and I'm really glad that I read it. I'm grateful to my friend who let me borrow the book, and I am excited to read other books by Rashonda Tate in the future. Well, I've just recorded this. It was a great recording. I had said everything I wanted to say about this book, and then I deleted it. So let's see if I can do it again. All right, fifth book that I read the fifth book that I read in the month of June was The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. I also read The Guest List by Lucy Foley, but it wasn't this year. It was a few years ago. In The Hunting Party, you follow a group of friends and they all go to a remote Scottish lodge to spend New Year's weekend. In this book, it opens with the caretaker, I suppose you could call it, of the lodge finding a body of one of the people in this party. The body is found. You are not told who it is at the beginning. You kind of have to piece that together as you go. And once they find the body, the book backtracks 3 days, and then you hear the rest of the story from different people's perspectives as they are in this hunting party. You might be able to figure it out before the end, because I was able to determine who the murderer was, and I had a clue about what their motive was towards the end. I do wish we got a little bit more about the people in the party, kind of secondary characters, and had a little bit more about the consequences that they faced once their weekend was over. But that's just me. I'm not saying this book is unfinished by any means. You do get a resolution at the end. You do figure out who the murderer is. You're given their entire motive, and there aren't any real loose ends. I just wanted a little bit more from some side characters that I enjoyed. Okay, I think I got everything out about this book that I wanted to say, and now let's not delete it. The sixth book that I finished in the month of June was Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinman. I have to say this was a huge surprise to me, and I did read it because other people on the internet have said that this is good, so I did fall victim to, I suppose, peer pressure or marketing, because I had not intended on reading this until so many people said that it was amazing. I have to say, this is my first foray into lit RPG, and I loved it. I think this is probably one of the greatest series, and I haven't even read the whole thing. Oh wow. Brittany, wake up. Okay. I think that this book and the series is going to be super enjoyable because some of the lines, there are parts in this story where it talks about once we stop helping people, that's when we lose what it means to be human. And I feel like that's pretty profound in the world today. Just looking at the news, it's terrible. So I very much enjoyed this. In Dungeon Crawler Carl, you follow a man from Seattle who, in the middle of the night, cat gets outside. He goes to rescue the cat, and when he's outside, the entire world collapses because aliens take over the planet and are hosting a game show. And in that game show, it's a little bit like Survivor, except you are surviving levels of a dungeon. And as you go, you have to level up or die. And in Dungeon Crawler Carl, we have Carl and his cat, well, his ex-girlfriend's cat, Princess Donut. Princess Donut talks. I feel like everybody can love this book because there is something about the humanity that is shown between Carl and other people, other animals, other creatures that make you appreciate the good that is in the world and the good that's in people. And I'm very excited to start book 2. The next book that I read in the month of June, and the last book that I read in the month of June, is It's Not Her by Mary Kubica. I don't own this book, and I'm very glad I don't own this book because I did not like the ending. And I'm not saying that you don't have to have your own opinion. You are completely allowed to like this book. I was just very frustrated by the end of this book. Two families go on vacation in Wisconsin, and you are following the versions of what's happening at this family vacation from two different perspectives. You have the aunt and you have her niece. So you have two different sides of the same family. And you're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, trying to figure out what happens to the people who were murdered at the beginning of the book. I enjoyed it up until the last 10%. And the very last line of the book made me so angry. And I don't want to give away why it made me angry, but I feel like this is probably just a me issue. Maybe I can put it in the spoilers. I don't know. I don't want to give it away. But the last line of the book made me so mad, so viscerally angry. I looked at my sister and I told her I'm so glad that I didn't buy this book, and my lighting just changed, but I'm sorry. I can't like it. I liked the book. I liked the book 90% of the book. I enjoyed 90% of the book. I was excited about the ending for 90% of the book. And then the last 10% made me frustrated. I would have still enjoyed it. The very last line of the book made me viscerally angry. Now, sitting here and thinking about that last line of the book, I'm not mad at the author. I'm mad at the character. So, because I'm feeling this, does that mean I actually liked the book? Or that it made me think, or that because I didn't expect this ending, that it was better than I think it is? I don't know. I do know okay, so here's what I can say. The author's writing style, very much enjoyed it. I read, I think she did Local Woman Missing. I'll double check. If she did something else, I'll write it right here. I enjoyed her writing style. I enjoyed the premise. I just did not like the resolution. The last 10% did not enjoy it. It actually made me angry. Of course it made me angry. That's why I'm talking about it. Anyways, the last 10% of the book, I thought, was a departure from where I thought it was going. And so maybe it's the unknown that frustrated me. Okay. Ugh, this hair. I'm not used to my hair being straight. I don't like my hair straight. I like my hair curly. This is bothering me, but it had to be done. Okay, moving on. Now we're going to talk about the books that I want to read in the month of July. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get comfortable. Well, I'm still working on this. I'm still working on the Count of Monte Cristo. I am further along than I have marked in the book. I think probably closer to here. It's not much more, but I'm about 25% of the way through the Count of Monte Cristo. I am enjoying this book. This is not a review or a check-in saying that I'm not enjoying the book. I'm loving the book. It's just very, very dense. There's a lot of information happening, and I'm only 25% of the way through, and I'm ready for the revenge. And the revenge is coming. Like, I know that it's on the way. It's supposed to start happening soon. So I'm curious to see, how do you spend 75% of a book talking about revenge? And yes, my goal is to finish it by the end of the month when I go back to school. So that means if I'm 25% of the way through, I've already read 10 hours, so I should have about 36 hours left. If I only did 4 hours a day, I could finish it in 9 days. That seems doable because I'm listening to the audiobook and I'm tandem reading, and I'm also reading, just regularly reading. But I do want to finish it before I go back to school because that would be quite the accomplishment. I am enjoying it. I just feel like there's so many other books that I want to read that dedicating all of my time to this one book feels wasteful. I don't know. Don't ask me what's going on in my head. Anyways, I'm going to try to finish reading that. I still have not started Empire of Silence. However, I want to, because Comic-Con is later this month. Not Comic-Con, what do they call it here? GalaxyCon. I live in Raleigh. They call it GalaxyCon now. And part of the reason why I want to finish it before GalaxyCon is because the author, where is he? There's a picture in here. There might not be. There is no picture of Christopher Rockwell. Anyways, the author of this book actually lives in the same town that I live in, and so even if he's not on the guest list, I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up to GalaxyCon or like any bookstore nearby. So I definitely want to start book 1 of Sun Eater. I love a space opera. I'm just enthralled by the cover of this book. I can't wait to start reading it. And I know it's also like 8 books long, so that and Undercolor Carl. And I want to start, what's it called? The Expanse. I haven't read that, and that's sitting on my shelf. I have all of these big books, long series that I want to read, and I feel like I have no time to read them. So subscribe to my channel so I can actually do that. Thank you. It's probably the only plug you're ever going to get from me about subscribing to my channel. Just do it so I can read some more. I'll subscribe to you. We can mutually benefit from this relationship. So, Sun Eater, also on my list. I want to get this done this month. I also want to read it before I go back to school because I really want to dedicate some time to me during my summer break. The next book that I need to read in the month of July is Game of Thrones. I did say the last time I was reading this that I am slowly making my way through it and annotating. I think I made it just slightly further than I did the last time. I'm really not enjoying it this time around. I think I'll probably take a break from the series once I finish it. I have some time right now that I can sit down and dedicate to reading the book, and one of my goals is to get it done. It's the second, I have 19 days before I need to even consider getting ready for work. So during that time period, I really want to focus on reading. I am in school also for my second master's degree, so I'm going to be balancing my time between finishing a project for school. I have 2 left for the semester, and then reading books. And hopefully this weekend, maybe Sunday, I'll be able to finish some of my projects, get them submitted, and then focus all next week on reading. That being said, I'm not enjoying Game of Thrones this time. And it's actually kind of disappointing. It's super disappointing. Kind of disappointing, nothing. It's super disappointing because I really loved this series when I read it, and now the things that I'm focusing on, I'm a very different reader than I was when I read it the first 4 times, the first 6 times. I am focusing on things that are standing out to me as things that I just no longer tolerate from writers or books that I'm reading, but I also don't DNF. I just don't pick up books again. So I'm hoping that as I go through the book, it departs from the things that I don't like and kind of transitions into the things that I remember really enjoying and making that a highlight out of everything. I'm hopeful. I just cautiously optimistic is probably the best way to describe it. The next book that I want to read in the month of July is the final revival of Opal and Nev. I know, this was supposed to be a June book. It ended up not being a June book because I got some books from the library that I did not expect to get. So I am going to put this on my list for July. Chances are I will not make it through everything that's on my list for July unless I'm insanely dedicated. So I'll work on this, and if it's not July, it'll be August. It will definitely be a summer book. However, I really feel like I should have read it by now, and I feel guilty that I haven't, but that's okay. Nothing I can do about it now, besides keep reading. It's not like I wasn't reading other books, it's just I was reading other books, and life is busy. There's only so many books that I can read in the time that I have. So of the books that I'm currently reading, we have talked about 2, The Count of Monte Cristo and Game of Thrones. The next book that I'm reading, and I'm maybe 30% of the way through it, is Tidelands by Philippa Gregory. I won the second book from a Goodreads giveaway, so I wanted to finish the first book, see if I want to keep it on my shelf, and if I do want to keep it on my shelf, keep it. If I don't, I'm going to give it to somebody who will love it, and then I'll read the second book. I may end up reading the second book immediately after the first book so I can give them away together, like put them in a little free library or something. And if I don't like how the first book ends, I'll just get rid of the second book anyways, and I'll just take it out of my circulation of books that I have in my want to reads. So Tidelands is book 3 that is on my list. Book 3 of my current reads. There we go. It's the 3rd book of my current reads that I'm working on. And then book 4 of my current reads is Dungeon Crawler Carl. Second one, it is Carl's Doomsday Scenario. I am only about 10% of the way through. So Carl and Donut have just arrived on floor 3, and they're picking their class and subclasses. Super excited to see what happens here. It has a really high rating. It's like a 4.49 on Goodreads. And I feel like this whole series is going to be one that just brings me up, makes me uplifted. I don't own book 2, so right now I'm reading it on Kindle. I think, even though I'm talking about getting books off of my shelves, I do think Doomsday. I do think Dungeon Crawler Carl is going to be a series that is going to take place of some of the books that I'm getting rid of. I do think I want to own these just because I'm enjoying them so much. I probably will wait to purchase this one until after I read it to see if I actually like it, because if the series ends up going a way that I don't enjoy, I don't want it to be like books that are sitting on my shelf that I kind of don't actually want anymore. Now, since we are, excuse me, get this hair out of my face, since we are talking about books and clearing out my shelves, let's see what the okay, I just pinched myself in this metal flippy part. Let's see what book the jar wants me to read in July, and we will add it to my list. I'll actually get it off my shelf. Where is the end of the paper? That's not it. I really don't want to tear these. I did really good last time without tearing it. So since this is on the outside, it should be right here. Found it. Let's see what the jar wants me to read this month. I have been doing pretty good about reading books off my shelf even without the jar. It's not working, so we're just going to tear it. Got it. What? Oh, I don't know if I have this anymore. Fires of Vengeance. Time to go check my shelf. I actually think I do have it. I do have it. I was wrong. It's not the book that I thought it was. This book, this hair, this hair is driving me crazy. Regardless, Fires of Vengeance is right here. I do own it. It's by Evan Winter. However, it's book 2. So, again, I picked a book 2. I need to read Rage of Dragons first, and then I'll read Fires of Vengeance. It's another rather chunky fantasy series, and there's book 2. But since I am on summer break, I will put these in my TBR pile, and hopefully we'll be able to get through them. I know for a fact there are books in here that I no longer own, that I just went ahead and got rid of. And I've yet to pull one, but there's like 200 stars. I did manage to get 2 books off my shelf this month, so that makes me happy. And of course I'm talking about adding more books because of Dungeon Crawler Carl, but we just won't tell anybody. But I'll add these to my TBR, and I'm actually looking forward to it because I know that this series has a lot of love on the internet and on Reddit, and who doesn't love a book that has dragons, right? So, ouch. I'm not good with this. I need a new jar. I need a new jar because this is painful and I don't want to hurt my fingers anymore. Okay. With all of these books that I need to read, and if we stack July, let's just see what it looks like. Let's see how many books I want to read this month. Or let's look at the page count of the books that I want to read this month. Here we go. That's quite a lot. It's not insurmountable, but I have 21 days, something like that. It's an odd number of days before I go back to school, and I want to accomplish all of this. So that tells me that it's time for me to start reading and stop recording. But I think what I am going to do this month is do summer teacher reading vlogs. So I'll start working on those and make some progress through all of these books, especially since I'm going to be trapped inside. This weekend it's supposed to be like 110 degrees real feel temperature. So yeah, time to focus on reading, and hopefully I can knock some of these out and make it through Fires of Vengeance. Have a good week. I look forward to seeing you again, and I will do a reading vlog for you soon. Bye.